Okay, I think it works now. Yay. Yay. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me, Zoe. It's so awesome to have you here and to talk about your books.
Cool. Thanks so much.
And to start off, I wanted to ask if you could share a little bit about yourself and the kind of books that you write.
Okay, cool. So I'm Zoe Hana Mikuta, and I write YA speculative fiction. My first duology was YA sci-fi, and now I've moved on to more like a fantasy horror standalone space. So I had my first one of those last year, Off With Their Heads. It was a dark, sapphic Alice in Wonderland retelling. That was really fun. And then I have one coming up on April 1st. It's called The Coven Tendency, and I'm super excited for that one because it's super dark. It's about this world where witches are stuck in a museum and they're put on display, made to do magic in front of the city's elite. Um, that's for the older generation of witches, and then they're waiting for like the witch children to like grow up out of teenagehood so that they can also become spectacles. But it centers around this teenage necromancer, Vanity, and she's really obsessed with the other witches her age that are also in the museum because in this world, magic causes psychological erosion, which is why like they're able to keep them in these museums as like a humane habitat. And um, so she gets invited by the other teenage witches to join this death club because they're all trying to figure out how to like find the cure for magic so that they can escape this museum. But the problem is that the main character, Vanity, she's nuts and she has a major crush on everyone and she's lovesick and she's totally gonna take this death club and take advantage of them. No one's a good person. And it's great. It's always fun to write.
I was gonna say, I love how your premises are just like so creative and just they sound so cool. Honestly.
I feel like I can't explain it well because I write better than I talk. So.
No, it sounds awesome, and it actually wanted me to lead into my first topic here is that I started Gear Breakers, and I think it is so much fun. I am not like a big sci-fi person these days. Like I find like it's really hard for me to get into it because I'm more like a fantasy romance person.
Right.
But the second I started this book, I just could not put it down, and I just love the world that you created, and it's just so much fun. It really brings me back to like those old like YA dystopia days.
Nice. Oh, thanks so much. I like feel like my writing's changed a lot, but like I think Gear Breakers and Godslayers has like a soft part of my heart. Like I get like made fun of on TikTok because like I'm always like, yeah, these are like my soft books, and then I have like my darker books coming out, and everyone's like, in Gear Breakers, like aren't they like ripping each other apart? I'm like,
Yeah.
but it's softer. Like
And so when you first started getting into writing with Gear Breakers, did you already have the like plan for the entire duology and everything, or is it something that like kind of developed as like you wrote the first and second book?
yeah, I'm definitely more of a pantser than a planner. I think that's changing as I do more fantasy, but yeah, I just knew like I started off just like with the tropes I wanted to write. So enemies to lovers, definitely. I wanted like found family to be the center of it, so that's all I really like to read in my YA. And then I just want to do like mechas. I just want to do mechas. And I at first I thought it was just gonna be like one side of the rebellion, like the people who are taking it down. But then I was like, I want to delve more into like the cyborg pilots who like pilot them. Like that could be an interesting part. And I think it just came together after that because I knew like just like the tropes I wanted to do, and it's like honestly kind of cheesy, and like it's always like why a rebellion, and then they fall in love, but. I think I just kind of that helped me structure it to be honest, because it was just like I could put my own spin on it all and make it sapphic. So
Yeah, and I was also gonna ask you, like when you were building like the plot and like figuring out the story and everything. So I'm like very early in, so it's when
okay. Yeah,
Sona is she's still like getting familiar with like her life like now that she's finished at the academy, and then
okay.
I read let's see, just finished. I think it was Eris's chapter when she is captured by like the other like soldiers. It's like very early on, like I think like the first like 6 chapters or something.
Oh my god, I'm
And
like literally trying to remember.
and I really like how it's like a very subtle like they don't really like know each other at all yet, but you can tell that something's gonna happen. So I like how you're just like building the atmosphere and like the suspense and everything.
Nice. Oh, I'm so glad. I
And
literally cannot remember how she gets captured. Oh my
and
gosh.
honestly, like I'm just like the type of reader that really, really loves looking at an author's prose and like digging into like their descriptions and everything. And I think what really is like connecting me to your book is your writing style.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I feel like I get like two kinds of readers and like people who like the more like lyrical side or like yeah, I vibe, and other people are like it's way too dense, which I like. I feel like I'm also both of those sides, so I think
Well,
like
yeah,
and
and
it's like
I love it because I feel like sometimes a lot of books like they tend to just like you know um state like it just like enough detail to like get you along, but I like how you're like very specific because it
okay.
builds like a very particular image of like what's going on and like how everything looks, and I really like that.
Thank you so much. You're a writer, right? Do you write like that
um
too? Like
yeah,
the
I'm like trying to
covering
get
and
into
stuff.
writing. I'm like at the very early stages of my writing.
Oh, cool. That's always the fun part. I feel like I get more and more in my head the longer I'm writing. And I feel like at the very beginning of when I was starting to write, I was like so like I was willing to try anything. So I think now I get scared.
But and then also actually I had started, I think it was Off With Their Heads, and I saw like the difference, but I also saw like how you still have a lot of like that very descriptive style, and I really love that because I think for me I love very atmospheric like fantasy sci-fi. That's just like my favorite type of writing.
Okay, cool. I'm so glad to hear it. Honestly, I feel like I would benefit. I actually don't read a lot of fantasy or sci-fi. I've been really into like the suburban literary side of things, uh, like when it's like uh, a suburban mom who's like really bored and she thinks she's like turning into an animal, or she starts like spying on her neighbors. Like that's really more the genre I read. So,
Or you're kind of like literary like type of
yeah, I
fiction,
don't
I
know.
guess.
I don't know you really what the genre is called. I think probably like magical. Wait, no, I'm just blanking on what it's called. Magical realism. That's just a
Oh,
touchy, like,
yeah. So, like kind of that vibe, yeah.
yeah, or like thrillers where like it's always just like a white lady who's going crazy.
And so I actually wanted to ask you, for YA specifically, like, are there any YA books or writers that inspired you or that inspire you
For
as a
sure.
writer?
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, this book came out, this series came out more recently, but Camilla Cole's "So Let Them Burn," that like sapphic dragon duology. I think it's like really cool to, um, because I really don't like read a lot of YA nowadays unless I'm like hearing a lot of hype around the books, and then I'll pick it up. But I always enjoy it every time, and I think it really helps me because I do tend to like lean toward denser writing, and I think it's because I pick up more adult, especially contemporary, where you're like more like half the plot is like happening in someone's head. But it helps to read YA because I feel like it's more plot focused a lot of the time, and so I pick one up whenever I need momentum. So Camilla Cole for sure. Love Chloe Gong. Another contemporary with comedy. Although she's releasing horror too, which I also read, and like I'm just like listing all my friends because I gush over them all the time. Yeah. What was the last YA I read? I think it was the sequel to So Let Them Burn. This ends and enders. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, and the Immortal Dark because I'm getting into vampires.
Oh,
I'm hoping that's my next one.
nice. Yeah, and I love that it's always interesting just to hear like what authors enjoy reading when like especially YA writers. It's always interesting to hear what they like.
Yeah, I think I usually like when I read fantasy sci-fi, it's YA, but when I read more adult, it's horror and contemporary. I don't really know why, but I'm
Yeah.
really more like attention span, like standalones is where I'm like, I'm just reading
Yeah.
standalones over my read series instead.
Yeah, I'm like big into standalones right now too. I
Nice,
feel like my
nice.
attention has like dipped. I believe
Yeah,
it's
same.
TikTok.
That's what I'm like. No, seriously. Have you read something recently that you could recommend to me? Because I actually just read stuff.
Oh my gosh.
It's a
Um,
lot.
Let me think. I really enjoyed A Cruel Thirst by Angela
Oh,
Montoya,
okay.
the vampire
Yeah, yeah.
romance. That
Yeah,
was
I
really
saw the cover. It was really nice.
that was pretty
Okay,
fun.
cool. I think because she hosted Y'all was last year, which I met you at.
Oh yes.
Yes, yes. Um,
Yeah, I really like that one. It's pretty fun. And also it's a standalone as well, which is
oh, it
nice.
is? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
And actually, it got me thinking. So, originally, like with Gear Breakers, for instance, that one's a duology, and then now you are focusing more on standalones. Do you ever see yourself maybe returning to duologies or series anytime?
I think maybe, I think I want my next one to be, I'm like kind of working on this vampire thing, and I think I could turn it into a duology, but of course it depends on the publisher. But of course, like also my attention span, I think. But I think I have like at least one more duology left in me. But I just have so many ideas that like I want to churn them out as fast as possible. So I think I don't want to like. I think pacing wise, my current writing style, it's like better suited for a standalone. I don't.
Yeah.
I can't linger as much. I'm trying to like even get into the habit of like. I know you like the lyrical prose, but I think I need to like. I need to move it along sometimes.
No, I love that because yeah, I noticed like after Gear Breakers you have Off with Their Heads and then Coven Tendency, which are standalones. So and now that I'm reading Gear Breakers, I'm like I love a good duology or series. So
Yeah, totally. Oh, totally. I don't remember the last time I sat down and like read a whole series, to be honest. That wasn't
I
like
know
more than 3 books. So.
I know I feel like most books that I've read these days are like either standalones or like duologies. Not many
Yeah.
series.
Well, I feel like publishers like they aren't buying like trilogies right off the bat like I feel like they once were. Like even for Gear Breakers, like I it was that was a 2 book contract, but my editor was like, actually, we're just gonna do a standalone. So
Huh?
wherever you see Gear Breakers end, like that's where I was just gonna leave it. And which is crazy because it's a cliffhanger. And but I was like, whatever, I'll just write another. But my editor like read it over again, and she's like, actually, let's make a duology. And I was like, good, because I feel like people are gonna be pissed off at me.
Oh my gosh, and this is so like random side tangent, but as I was reading Gear Breakers, I also recently started watching Arcane, and like I don't know if like you've seen like maybe like people like recommending your book like if they like Arcane, but I was reading, I was like it kind of reminds me of the show a little bit.
So many people, honestly, especially when season 2 came out, I was getting tagged in like Gearbreakers was getting tagged in so many things.
Really?
Like if you like these characters in Arcane, if you like this scene in Arcane, which is pretty cool because I love that show. I love that show.
The
If
show's
I
pretty
like,
fun.
yeah, like I don't. I guess it's over now. There are these spinoffs, but I'm hoping it'll happen again.
Ooh, and next I wanted to ask you, so I really love the just like the whole idea of like, you know, like the mecha robots and stuff in Gear Breakers. And I was gonna ask you, like did you always want to write something like that? Or is that like have you always been interested in like that genre of like sci-fi?
I was always loving the like mecha sci-fi, like Pacific Rim and Gundam, and yeah, I was like, I have to do that. I liked Do you know that you read Percy Jackson? Like,
Yeah, a long time ago though.
a long time ago, right? But
Yeah.
there's this one scene in like I don't remember if it was the third or fourth book, but it's like Bianca D'Angelo, and they're in this junkyard, and she goes into a robot to like that's attacking them to dismantle it, and I was like, that one stuck with me forever. I think like from that point, like that's where everything kind of came. Not gonna lie.
Love that. And then next I wanted to ask you about like so like with your horror books, so for example like with Off with Their Heads, when I started reading that one, I love how you sort of combined like um fairy tales with the horror genre. I think that's like a really unique take and like a very unique spin on like classic fairy tales. So I wanted to ask you with that book, what drew you to you know, use these genres and like combine them and build your story?
Well, I always wanted to do like an Alice in Wonderland retelling, and I knew it was gonna be horror because like that's just like I know it's like a kid's book, but like you read it and it's just like that general sense of unease and like that's why so many horror retellings come out of Alice in Wonderland. I just wanted it to like join the thrall of that. Um, and I love like making the new characters, making them all like scary and messed up. It's just fun. And I think I just like always lean toward horror. It's something that like I don't know. It seems almost like a it's definitely like a challenge because like making people scared with words. But it's like that's I feel like a horror book is definitely like a good horror book is like what will stick with me the longest, like longer than any other genre. And so that's definitely what I wanted to do. And around that time I was writing Off with Their Heads, I was also taking a folklore class at UW. So I was getting a lot of like ideas because we talked a lot about variants in fairy tales, which is just like how there's like a hundred different versions of every fairy tale, and you just like keep taking these tropes and all of the Alice in Wonderland tropes. Like it's just so gothic. I feel like uh, Alice in Wonderland doesn't get like enough credit for being like one of the great gothic works because it is a kid story. But I was like, let's just turn that up a lot because that would just be really fun.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the horror genre because um I I don't read too much of it because I feel like I get scared too easily. But I like what you said about how it like the good ones like really stick with you. Um and I also think that like the best horror books are like atmospheric, and I think you do like that atmosphere like so well. Like
Thank
that's one
you.
thing that always sticks with me when I start like one of your books.
Nice. Oh, that's so good to hear, honestly.
And I wanted to ask you, like in that similar vein, like how do you find like that voice, like that really descriptive style?
I've had a question before, and I think it's just, I have no idea, really. I just kind of go. Um, I always have like a tone I'm going for, and I just have to kind of like see if I can, like, where I just go naturally with it, I guess. I'm not like sitting down and trying to figure it out, although maybe that would help in the long run. But I don't know. besides like I don't know, writing down like I'll get up in the middle of the night if I have an idea and I'll like take out my notes app and stuff. And then sometimes I'll have like a line or like a scene or like a setting or like a setting and then I'll like build the whole rest of the scene around that. But I'm not very structured. I don't plan very well. I'm getting better at it because it's easier with a synopsis. But in general, I have no idea. I just have to see what works. Like it's just gonna be like fake it till you make it, basically.
Yeah, and then another thing too that I noticed with your books, I don't know if it's maybe just like how you approach like writing it or like plotting it or something, but I love how cinematic they are. Like every time I like sit down and read like a few pages, I'm like, it's like a movie in my head. And I love
I'm,
that. Yeah.
oh, I'm so glad. Those are my favorite books to read too.
And I feel like if they ever became movies, they'd be really cool animated. I'm just picturing like an animated like film like
Sure.
going off in my head with like a soundtrack and everything.
Ah, cool. Yeah, like literally with any book, I definitely want to, if I could get like arcane style, like that would be ideal. Definitely animated over live action.
Oh yeah,
Or,
definitely.
yeah. I think about
And then next, I
it.
wanted to chat with you about romance because you also add in sapphic romances to your novels, and I just really love that like the dynamics that you explore with the characters. From what I've seen and like how you talk about your books, I think that's so interesting and it makes the story like really cool. So I wanted to ask you, how do you sort of develop the romance, and is it something that like you sort of know going into each book, or do you kind of like develop it as you draft?
I think I always know like where the characters are gonna have that relationship. Sometimes I start with the trope like lovers, enemies, enemies, lovers. Um, but I really don't know how it's gonna develop. But there's always gonna be banter. That's always fun. That's always so fun. I like grin a little to myself as I'm writing it. And then of course like when I started writing Gear Breakers it was like, why are they both girls? Why do I feel like that? But I figured it out. It just was later help. But I feel like it's hard to write a book nowadays without romance. It's kind of like something that is expected in your YA, especially. I think that's unfortunate, but I would like to read more stuff about like stuff that's like just friendship, and I would love to write like that. But um, not that I had like pressure writing romance. Oh well, that all came naturally because I do like to read it. So I don't know what I'm complaining about.
No, yeah, I totally get that. Like as someone who like reads a lot of YA, like I also do feel like sometimes like I'll read a book and I think it's really good, but I'm like, does it need a romance? Like it's
Yeah,
nice, but you know. and
yeah,
and like the thing is too, like I also feel like sometimes like YA is just like misjudged just because it has romance. Like, but like it's not,
oh,
you know,
totally.
it's not a bad thing either.
Yeah, I think there just needs to be some kind of, well, I think people just need to find what they like without complaining about what other people like. But
And then for you in general, as a YA writer, what are some things that you would love to see in YA more of?
oh, that's a good question. Is that like a broad? I can do anything. Okay. I want zombies. I want zombies to come back. I don't know if they were ever there, but yeah, they say like zombies and space operas because like I've heard that like both are tropes that like do not sell, but they need to because those are my favorite. Oh, yeah, that's I also like I love like this influx of diversity that's coming into the like the Y publishing sphere. Like there's definitely like problems attached to it because like I think publishers definitely use like a sense of tokenism.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's that's unfortunate, but I think at a point like we need to have enough diversity where like these like minority characters are allowed to be like horrible people without getting like so criticized.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that representation is important too. Like I kind of want those like toxic like Asian characters because like they're gonna get a lot of flack, but there's so many other like people who like are characters who like act horrible. They totally get away with it because
Oh, yeah.
they're still like the darlings because like they're white and straight.
Such a fact. An absolute fact. I'm like, please let us be horrible people
Yeah,
in our
literally,
books,
like I
please.
want to read it. Like I won't like them, but there's something so like very satisfying and delicious about reading
Yeah,
that they're horrible. So
absolutely. Much of that got me thinking like um another like subgenre that I feel like should really have more of a like popularity in YA is vampires. I'm like, we've been seeing a lot more vampire stuff and I'm kind of into it. I'm like, I've never
totally.
really cared much for vampires that much, but
Oh,
there's a lot of
totally.
really good ones coming.
No, there's
Coming
like good spins on it too.
out.
Like I feel like post Twilight, like it was kind of like I don't know if the market was cornered on that because of the Twilight books or because like they're considered cringe almost. But there's a lot
Yeah,
of like fresh takes going on, so I like it. I like to see it.
absolutely, for sure. And then another thing too, YA dystopias.
Yeah, for sure. Like that was so like I feel like people thought it was like so overplayed, but like I never wanted to stop reading those. So the same.
And technically yours is like dystopia too, right?
Yeah,
Kind
I
of.
think Gear Breakers. Yeah,
Because kind
yeah,
of like a
and
post-world like
yeah,
society.
post definitely. Yeah, I was about to very different. I think if I kind of like call it like dust punk in my head. I don't know why. Not even cyberpunk. I advertised it as cyberpunk, but I was like, I'm getting off topic now. I was like, but it's
All good.
dusty.
Ooh, and then next I wanted to ask you, so with Gear Breakers, um, did you always plan for it to be like dual POV as well? And in general, like how did you like find like the voice for each of your main characters?
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think I did want to do dual POV because I like it when they're like the love interest and they can like see like what the other's thinking about the other, which is fun. But I just had to like develop. I did like yeah, I just had to see where they ended up because like I think just like the more you write them, the more I like figured out like how I wanted their like internal voice to be, which is why like writing the sequel like that was a lot easier than writing the first one, which like not a lot of people say. I think if they're like because like it's like the sophomore novel is usually like what people find kind of difficult because you're writing under the deadline. And I think
Yeah,
if I hadn't been continuing the series, like it totally would have been that because I felt it on the next one. But by the time I got into Godslayers, like I already had both of the POVs, like their voices really solidified in my head. So I was just able to like go with it instead of like lingering and trying to figure out like how they would actually be thinking or it just takes time. No plan, just time.
and then I actually wanted to ask you, so out of all of the books that you've written, which one would you say is your favorite?
Oh, I would have to say the one that's coming out now. I'm like the prose is so wacky. I'm like honestly not sure how I got away with it. Because I feel like it's really unconventional from from usual like YA prose and YA like structure. Because like there's a lot of jumping around um, of like timeline. It's and the purpose is that like it gets all jumbled because all the characters like being around each other it basically like sets off each of their like collective psychosis. So like as the narrative goes, like it gets more and more frayed. But I think I like it was just like a real opportunity to like work on that like weird craft side of things in a way I feel like I haven't been able to with my other books. So I'm just really actually like really proud of this one. I feel like with the other ones, I'm like, but I'm really excited. I definitely think it might be like my most disliked book, but I like don't even care.
No, I was gonna say that I think that is so cool, especially with like how you described it, like it's like unconventional prose, because um I think like in YA, uh I feel like there isn't always a lot of like experimentation. So I think it's
Yeah,
really cool that like you're like really bringing like that unique style to your books,
I'm trying
especially
because
like the horror ones.
yeah, like I feel like that's the best genre to do it in, that you could really get away with it. I do feel like people say a lot that like all YAs like read the same, but this one is very tonally different, which is why I think some people will like not like it. But for the same reason they're criticizing the other books, so whichever, I'll just do it. So anyway,
And then I wanted to ask you, like in general, like which of your characters has been your favorite to write?
uh, I would have to think Hattie, Queen Hattie, and off like their heads. She's based on off the Mad Hatter and the Red Queen. She's like crazy, but I just really liked how her story ended up. She's like calm and terrifying, like exactly the how I wanted her to end up. So, but she's just like the most fun because she's like really crazy, but she's like really calm and contemplative and not crazy to herself. I love her. So,
I love that, and I can't wait to finish reading that one because I love just like the vibes of everything in that book and the just the atmosphere and everything.
nice.
So good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then next, I wanted to ask you, if you could write or co-write with another writer, what kind of story would you want to write, and who would you want to write it with?
Oh, actually, I've talked about this with my friends. So we would always joke about doing like a heist book with like, because there's five of us, so like probably five different POVs. That'd be Tasha Buron, Raquel Marie, Christina Lee, and Chloe Gong. When we talk about that, we do.
Oh my
It's
gosh, that
mostly a
sounds so fun.
joke until
That
it's
sounds so
not.
fun.
I've never done a heist book, so I don't know how that would turn out.
I love heist books and shows.
No,
They're fun.
yeah. I also have like horror anthology on my bucket list. To be a part of that, that'd be so cool.
That
I love
would. Oh my
you.
gosh, that's so cool. And then next, I wanted to ask you, if your characters from any of your books could meet other fictional characters, who would you want them to meet?
I probably want my Alice in Wonderland characters to meet actual Alice in Wonderland characters because, like, they might, like, it's like a 5-year-old girl who's like Alice, right? And I think my characters would hate her. They'd be so annoyed. I just want to see it happen. Uh, but they were like, my characters are a lot more brutal than those characters. But at the same time, the Alice in Wonderland characters are so unbothered by everything. So, like, maybe they would do fine if they were in, like, my Wonderland.
That sounds so fun, actually. And you know, actually, when I get back into your book, I really want to like dig into like the references and stuff because I remember from what I had read so far, I just love like how you describe everything, and I'm like I could pick it like, you know, what's from like the original story and how you're like putting your unique spin on it
No, thank you. Yeah,
and
I
everything.
definitely, like, went through an Alice in Wonderland copy and was, like, writing the margins and trying to plot halfway there. It's probably the most research I've done for anything.
And then next, I wanted to ask you, what do you love about writing YA?
I What do I like about reading? I think it's like it's called young adult, but I think it's like has something for everyone. I just think it's like something that's like a lot more accessible than adult, and I had different opinions on it because I definitely think like new adult is like a term that's like not it's like gaining more popularity, but I don't know if it's like I think it's only because like there's adults reading YA and they like need a new space for that and like the expectations of that. Um, but it's more like nostalgic for me. Like I think YA is like definitely where I started to like pick up my love for reading. And so like, when I started wanting to get published, like that's just where I landed. Um, I didn't really consider starting off with an adult or like middle grade because YA was always what it was just like always what it was in my hands, like middle school through high school. And I think it's really fun, like having characters like who like they should make mistakes, and it's like nice writing. It's almost like a relief writing characters who are allowed to make mistakes. Like I think like online they probably get a lot of flack for like not making right decisions, but it's okay because they're like teenagers. And like I don't think YA needs to be too preachy of like teaching people what's right from wrong, but more like I think it should more be focused on accepting that like these are flawed characters because they're not grown up. I think that's like the only lesson that needs to be imparted.
Yeah, I like that, and that's so true. Cause like, I feel like when people, like, complain about YA, they say, like, "Oh, the characters are, like, annoying," or, like, they make, like, the worst decisions. I'm like, That's kind of the
They're
point, I guess,
teens.
isn't it?" That's kind of the
Yeah.
point.
Like with my upcoming the common tendency, like the point is that like all of the characters they enter this like really like abusive codependent relationship with each other, and it's bad because like through the main character's eyes like the whole thing is totally romanticized, and I'm hoping people will come away with it being like, oh, that was totally a warning tale instead of, oh my god, she's romanticizing all of that. This is like it is totally ridiculous, like, and I feel like when you fall in love with it as a teenager, like you do view everything through rose colored glasses and you get really attached really quickly because it's like the first time ever and you don't have any experience with that and you don't really know like exactly how things are supposed to be. So I'm hoping people will take it like that instead of being like, oh my god, you're teaching the children bad things. Like I think it's okay to like challenge like why readers to like read between the lines for a bit, but we'll see.
No, and I like how you said that, especially with, like, why especially it's like, because people will often say, like, YA is, like, very to the point, very straightforward, and I'm like, I mean, if you look at it that way, sure, but there's a lot of depth if you know, look for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's becoming a problem, the readability, but that's another topic.
And all the, what do they call it? The anti-intellectualism and all
Oh my
that.
god, it's fine. Like, yeah, just actually put my whole book through AI and just have them explain the themes for you.
Like, wow.
It's basically like reading, right? Oh, sorry, that was too sarcastic there. The snippy.
And then, next I wanted to ask you, like, what, what are, like, other, like, writing inspirations that you have? Like, either if it's, like, authors or, like, like, any media that you like, what are the
Nice.
things that inspire you as a
Um,
creative?
yes, yes. Well, my favorite author is Shirley Jackson. She writes horror, and all her characters like her writing is so clean, but at some point her characters all like go crazy in their heads, but like the flip of when they're fine and when they're crazy is so subtle that like all of a sudden they're just like insane and you have no idea like at what point they flipped over. And I just like the technique of it. I'm in awe. I like love that internal thing, and you just have like this thing creeping up your back your spine. Like, wait, are they okay? And they're not. So she's my favorite author, and she also does like I think her writing does border on experimental, but she has her own thing. And then I think one of my favorite horror books I read was In the House in the Dark of the Woods. Like I'll always that would be like my desert island book. I think it's Liard Hunt is the author of that. But that one messed me up. That was like a folk horror type deal. I don't know. Freaks me out. Yeah, just books that freak me out. That's my inspiration. I want to like really have books that like stay with people. Like they don't have to like it, but it has to unsettle them.
I love that. And would you say that like other than like the literary type stuff, you mostly just read like horror, or do you read other genres as well that like kind of inspire you?
Yeah, I pick up a lot of contemporary to be honest. It's probably what I read the most. But I'm really a mood reader. I don't really stick to one thing or another. I'm reading The House Across the Lake right now by Riley Sager. But I just like picked that up from like a little free library and was like, this looks good. That's like the kind of reader I am. Um, yeah, I'm gonna rip that book. That's, I was gonna hold it up. Yeah. Really precious with my reading, to be honest. Like, I like, unless I'm like 60% away through the book, like, if I don't like it, I'll put it down. Type of reader.
Me too. I'm such a mood reader these days. It's like I'll say, "Yeah, I'm really excited for this book," and then I take forever to get to it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, same. I have like a big stack of. I don't even want to think about the book on my floor right now. Waiting to get noticed.
And then next, I did want to ask you, like when you like sit down to like write, like what is like the one element that like really like drives your writing, like the element of like a story? Is it like the characters? Is it the story? Or is it like maybe like a mix of things? Like what's the one thing that really draws you as a writer?
I think it would be the characters. Like, I love like being able to like develop their rationale and like their own like personal moral or whatever code, and because I never like really plot, like I'll plot but I won't like sit down and like write out like the personality traits of a character. That's something that like I'll just be writing and like see how they react. And yeah, I'm just like I like putting them through things and seeing how they react. Like it's so horrible and it's like kind of weird of course because like I'm the one who's doing it, but they still get surprised sometimes. Um, I like seeing who they are after like all the pressure. Like I think that's what drives me is like making that character arc where like if they're like there's parts of themselves they don't recognize after it's all over, like yeah, that's what I'm writing for.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see elements of that when I finish Gear Breakers, because I feel like I can
Oh,
kind of see it a little bit.
oh boy.
And I love what you said about that like you don't really try to like go in with like a particular plan, like you really let the characters drive you. I think that's like such a unique like way to approach it, and I don't think I've ever heard an author say that, so that's really cool.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
feel like I need to plot a little more with that because sometimes I'll be writing and be like, "What are we doing? I'm gonna delete all this because it doesn't make any sense." But
But
it's
but
okay.
like I remember when I started off with their heads, I was really drawn to just like the thought process of the characters and how like on page like it really got across that you're trying to explore like, you know, like the inner workings of like their mind and like how they view the world around them. So I think that's really cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. That was fun because like I put in the whole element of like the forest is calling them back, like Wonderland's calling them back, so they sneer a little.
Yeah, so just this honestly just has me so excited to like finish up all your books and then like just go through all the details and like really dig deep with like the characters and everything. I'm so excited.
Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And to conclude, because I know we've been here for a bit, I don't want to keep you too long. I wanted to ask you, what is next for you, and in general, where can readers find you if they want to follow along with your books and your writing?
Nice. Well, I my next book coming out on April 1st. Again, it's a YA fantasy horror. It kind of puts a word for horror. And then next I'm working on new projects. I kind of do want to write vampire stuff, so kind of what I'm leaning toward, to be honest. Yeah, but I have my book launch on April 1st in Books of Wonder in NYC, and I have all those friends I mentioned earlier coming to do a author panel with me. So that's where you can find me in person, I guess. But and then I have all my socials is just like my full legal name, which might have been a mistake, but that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I really appreciate it, and I just loved discussing like your books with you and just learning more about your writing and everything.
Thanks so much. This was really
Right. And then
fun.
I will end the stream here. Thank you for tuning in.